tail pointing toward the sun against heat, against wind, against everything we thought we understood. You arrived here, traveller, not by accident, but by alignment, because some questions only surface when the cosmos decides we are ready to listen. What if this interstellar object is not simply passing through but paying attention? What are the odds that a fragment from another star would follow the plane of our planets, brushing past Mars, Venus and Jupiter, as if tracing a deliberate path? NASA calls it planetary defense. Astronomers call it an anomaly. One silent body accelerating where no force should exist. 1420 megahertz carbon dioxide instead of water, a whisper moving somewhere between Mars and the Sun. Not loud, not urgent, just precise. Stay a while. Tonight the universe whispers again, not as a warning, not as a proclamation, but as a deviation so small it could only be noticed by those who have learned to listen to silence. Far beyond the familiar cadence of planets and moons, an object entered our awareness, moving with a velocity shaped by another star, another system, another history. Interstellar objects are rare visitors, yet when they appear they remind us that the solar system is not sealed only momentarily complete. At first there was nothing dramatic. Telescopes recorded light angles, distances. Data flowed as it always does, calm and indifferent to meaning. But soon a detail emerged that did not settle easily into known patterns. The object carried a tail, a faint extension of gas and dust, yet its orientation resisted expectation. Instead of flowing away from the sun, guided by solar radiation and wind, it leaned inward, toward heat, toward pressure, toward a source that should have pushed it back. For centuries, comets have taught us a simple lesson. Ice warms, molecules escape, photons push, the sun breathes outward, and small bodies respond. This is not poetry. It is physics repeated so reliably that it has become instinct. And yet here the instinct hesitated. The tail pointed in a direction that felt almost conversational, as if the object were responding to forces we'd not finished describing. Explanations were offered gently. Perspective can deceive. Dust behaves differently than gas. Light bends, meaning as easily as it bends space. Papers were written, equations aligned, caveats carefully placed. No claim was rushed, no certainty declared. The models did not collapse, but they did not close the question either. They hovered incomplete, like sentences waiting for a final word. Time passed, as it always does in astronomy, measured in nights rather than moments. Then quietly the behaviour changed. The tail turned. Not abruptly, not violently, but decisively enough to be noticed. What once leaned sunward began to drift outward, aligning once more with the solar flow. July held one configuration, August preserved it, September released it. Observatories documented the transition without interpretation. Images spoke only in light. Such changes are not impossible, yet they are uncommon. Nature usually prefers gradual shifts, long arcs of cause and effect. This adjustment felt efficient, almost economical, as though a phase had ended and another begun. No alarm followed. Only attention deepened, as measurements refined estimates of size followed. Brightness suggested mass. Mass suggested scale. Compared to previous interstellar visitors, this object occupied a different register altogether. Where earlier bodies were fragments, this one appeared closer to a drifting mountain, its presence stretching the quiet mathematics of probability. Detection odds grew thinner, not impossible, just unlikely enough to notice. Spectral analysis added another layer. Instruments that translate chemistry into colour revealed a composition dominated by carbon dioxide, accompanied by carbon monoxide with water present only faintly. Most comets are rich with frozen water, releasing it generously as they approach the sun. This mixture spoke differently. Not artificially, not unnaturally, simply unfamiliar, like a dialect rarely heard. As the object continued, inward attention turned to geometry. Its path traced a plane close to that of the planets themselves, the wide, flat disk upon which worlds circle in patient repetition. Mars lay along that path. Venus rested closer in. Jupiter watched from the outer darkness, its gravity shaping the long architecture of the system. Passing near a planet is common over cosmic time. Passing near several becomes statistically delicate. Statistics do not accuse, they only whisper, and even then only to those who pause long enough to hear them. Perihelion approached the moment of closest passage to the Sun where motion and gravity converse most intensely. At such points, subtle changes become visible. Acceleration leaves signatures. Fragmentation, if it occurs, announces itself through altered paths. Yet from Earth, this moment would unfold unseen. The object would pass behind the Sun, hidden not by secrecy but by alignment. Light itself would become a curtain. This is ordinary celestial mechanics. Solar glare has hidden many things before. Still timing carries a quiet poetry. The moment of greatest proximity would coincide with our deepest blindness. Around the same time, observation broadened. More instruments turned, more networks listened. Systems designed to monitor potential hazards activated routines, even though no collision was predicted. This was not fear, it was care. An expression of attentiveness rather than alarm. Signals were considered not expected but possible. Antennas listened to the background hum of space where natural sources murmur constantly. Silence persisted as silence often does. It offered no reassurance and no threat. Throughout all of this restraint remained. No declarations were carved into certainty. No conclusions were crowned as truth. The process unfolded as science often does, slowly, reverently allowing doubt to coexist with knowledge. If you are listening closely, Traveller, this is not weakness, it is discipline. The object continued its passage indifferent to our interpretations. Gravity guided it. Photons brushed its surface. Entropy unfolded as it always has. Somewhere beyond our reach, something ancient still moves, carrying the memory of another stellar neighbourhood through ours. You're not lost in space, listener. You are part of it. The same forces that shape distant trajectories also shape the quiet rhythm of thought beneath the night sky. Tonight, it is all right to not know. The universe does not demand conclusions on our schedule. For now, the data rests. The telescopes wait. The object drifts onward, neither answering nor hiding. Silence remains the language of distant worlds, and tonight that silence is enough. Tonight, the universe whispers again, but more softly now, as if inviting us to lean closer rather than look harder. After discovery comes patience, and after patience comes listening. This is the stage where astronomy becomes something quieter than observation. It becomes reflection. As the object continued its passage, data accumulated not in bursts but in layers. Light curves settled into gentle arcs. Velocities refined themselves with each new measurement. Nothing dramatic announced itself, and yet the silence around the object began to feel intentional. Not in motive, but in effect. When many instruments observe and nothing resolves cleanly, the absence itself becomes a kind of signal. In space, silence is not empty. It is structured. Background radiation hums at a steady temperature. Charged particles drift through magnetic fields. Every region has its own acoustic signature, translated not through sound, but through energy and motion. Against this constant murmur, the object offered no reply. It emitted no detectable radio rhythm, no narrow-band spike, no patterned repetition, only reflected sunlight and the faint breath of gas. This absence did not disappoint the astronomers, it steadied them. Nature does not owe us communication. Most of the universe remains mute not because it is hiding, but because it simply exists without regard for being heard. Still, attention widened. Observatories across the planet aligned their schedules. Networks designed for rare coordination moved into gentle synchrony. This had happened before for near-Earth asteroids, for bodies whose paths might one day intersect our own. Here, the motivation was different. There was no threat of impact. The concern was not danger, but understanding. Planetary defense systems are not weapons. They are calendars, equations, and vigilance. They exist to ensure that nothing arrives without being noticed. When such systems activate, it does not mean something is feared. It means something is being taken seriously. Data sharing slowed, not halted, but paced. Measurements require calibration. Instruments disagree before they converge. In science, delay is often the sound of care. Raw numbers are fragile things. Released too early, they fracture into speculation. Held too long, they invite imagination. Between those extremes lies a narrow corridor where meaning can survive. From this corridor, one detail continued to echo. The object's path remained unusually aligned with the planetary plane. This plane is not a rule, but a memory. It reflects the ancient disk from which the Sun and its planets formed, flattened by rotation and time. Most interstellar visitors cut through it at arbitrary angles indifferent to its geometry. This one skimmed it as if reading along the margin of a familiar page. Mars passed nearby, red and quiet, its orbit traced by machines and dust. Venus lay inward, wrapped in cloud and reflection. Jupiter waited farther out its gravity, a deep well that sculpts trajectories across millions of kilometers. Passing near planets is not interaction. It is coincidence shaped by motion. Yet coincidence repeated invites contemplation. Statistics do not confirm intention. They simply measure rarity. A rare path is still a natural path. But rarity slows us down. It asks us to sit with probability rather than rush past it. As perihelion approached, the object slipped closer to the Sun's influence. Temperatures rose, radiation intensified, molecules gained energy and drifted away. This is the most ordinary story in astronomy told endlessly by comets that have visited before, and yet this time the story unfolded partly out of view. Solar glare intervened. Instruments on Earth lost their line of sight. This blindness is not failure. It is geometry. The Sun is generous with light, but ruthless with concealment. Many things have passed behind it without witness. What matters is not what we miss, but how we receive what comes after. Weeks would pass before the object emerged again into observable skies. In that interval, astronomers did not wait idly. They refined predictions. They compared models. They asked what signatures might appear if nothing unusual occurred, and what signatures would remain if something subtle had changed. Acceleration leaves traces. Even silence has momentum. If you are listening tonight, listener, know that this is the heart of scientific inquiry. Not the answer, but the interval. The space where curiosity rests without anxiety. Where not knowing is not a void, but a landscape. The cosmos has no obligation to resolve itself on human timescales. Stars burn for billions of years. Orbits repeat with patient indifference. Interstellar objects travel longer than civilizations last. Against such durations, a few weeks of uncertainty is barely a breath. And yet within that breath meaning accumulates. The object is not a messenger. It is not a verdict. It is a reminder that our models are provisional, our understanding always unfinished. This is not a flaw. It is the condition that allows wonder to survive. As the nights continued, the sky returned to its familiar arrangement. Planets resumed their quiet wandering. The background stars held steady. Somewhere beyond immediate reach, the object moved on, carrying its history through our neighborhood without commentary. There is comfort in this. The universe does not rush toward revelation. It unfolds layer by layer, photon by photon. Silence is not refusal. It's simply the default state of distant worlds. Tonight it is all right to rest within that silence. To let unanswered questions remain open not as threats but as invitations. The data will return. The light will reappear. And whatever the outcome, the cosmos will remain vast enough to hold both certainty and doubt. For now, the stars keep their quiet watch, and that is enough. Tonight the universe whispers again, but now from a deeper distance, where observation gives way to patience, and patience softens into trust. This is the stage where the story does not advance through discovery but through waiting, where astronomy becomes less about what is seen, and more about how long we are willing to remain attentive when nothing seems to change. As the object moved beyond direct view, hidden by the sun's overwhelming light, the instruments did not fall silent. They continued to measure indirectly. Gravity leaves fingerprints even when light is blocked. Orbits remember. Motion carries information forward like a tide that cannot be stopped, only delayed. When a body disappears behind the sun, it does not vanish. It continues precisely obedient to equations older than thought. During this interval, scientists turned inward toward models and memory. They asked what a quiet passage should look like. They calculated expected brightness on re-emergence. They traced possible deviations so small they would only reveal themselves weeks later as tiny discrepancies between prediction and reality. This is how subtle change is detected not by drama but by comparison. In the absence of new images, the mind naturally wanders. It fills silence with narrative, but science trains us to resist that impulse to let emptiness remain empty until data arrives. Silence in this discipline is not ignorance, it is restraint. The object's path, now invisible, continued to arc through the solar system's familiar geometry. The ecliptic plane stretched outward like a vast invisible road traced by planets and dust alike. This plane is not a law but a consequence of history. It remembers the spinning disk from which worlds condensed long ago. Most visitors from other stars cut across it without ceremony. This one travelled alongside it for a time, close enough to be noticed, far enough to remain untouched. Such alignment does not speak of intention. It speaks of coincidence shaped by gravity. Yet coincidence, when rare, invites contemplation without demanding conclusion. Statistics whisper, not shout. They ask us to notice without insisting we decide. During the solar conjunction, communication between observatories slowed. Not stopped, simply paced. Data pipelines require calibration. Instruments must agree with themselves before they agree with each other. This quiet coordination is not secrecy, it is care. Knowledge, when rushed, fractures easily. Meanwhile, planetary systems continued their steady motions. Mars completed another small fraction of its long year. Venus reflected sunlight back into space with relentless brightness. Jupiter turned slowly at storms indifferent to passing visitors. The solar system does not pause for anomaly. It absorbs it as it has absorbed countless events before. If you are still listening, traveller, this is where humility enters the story. Not the humility of insignificance, but the humility of participation. We are observers within a system that does not centre us. Our instruments extend our senses, but they do not grant authority. They teach us to wait. Weeks later, anticipation gathered quietly. Not excitement, not fear, but readiness. Re-emergence would bring new measurements. Light would once again travel from the object to our mirrors and detectors. Photons would complete their long journeys, carrying with them evidence of what had happened while we could not watch. This is one of astronomy's gentlest lessons. Much of the universe unfolds beyond our direct sight. We infer, we reconstruct, we trust that nature remains consistent even when unseen. When an object passes behind the sun, we do not assume mystery. We assume continuity. As calculations, refined scientists prepared for comparison. Would brightness match expectation? Would velocity remain unchanged? Would the tail reappear with familiar geometry? Each outcome carried meaning, yet none carried threat. Knowledge expands quietly, or it does not expand at all. There is a temptation in moments like this to assign narrative weight to timing, to see hidden purpose in alignment, but the cosmos is vast enough that coincidence alone can feel profound. A rare event does not require explanation beyond its rarity. Wonder does not demand resolution. The object, wherever it was in those hidden weeks, remained subject to the same forces that govern dust and planets alike. Gravity curved its path. Radiation warmed its surface. Entropy continued its patient work. No exception was required. And still the waiting mattered, because waiting is not emptiness. It is the space where understanding matures, where premature certainty dissolves, where questions learn to rest without becoming restless. In this pause, science reveals its most human quality. It chooses patience over proclamation. As nights passed on Earth, the sky offered familiar comfort. Constellations returned to their seasonal places. The moon traced its phases. Satellites crossed the darkness, brief and artificial reminders of our own small motions within a larger order. Somewhere beyond immediate reach, the interstellar visitor continued onward, indifferent to the stories told about it. It did not announce itself, it did not respond. It simply moved, carrying with it the memory of another stellar environment, another long journey through cold and time. There is peace in this. The universe does not rush to explain itself. It allows us to approach slowly with tools that extend our senses and minds that learn from restraint. Silence is not a barrier, it is a medium. Tonight it is all right to rest within that medium, to let unanswered intervals remain open, to trust that when light returns it will do so honestly without regard for expectation. The cosmos remembers its paths. It keeps its own time. And as we wait beneath the stars, that steady continuity is enough to carry us gently towards sleep. Tonight the universe whispers again, but now the whisper carries a tone of return. After absence comes reappearance, and after waiting comes comparison. This is the stage where light resumes its role as messenger, where photons once again bridge distance, and where patience is gently rewarded with clarity that is never complete, only deeper. When the object emerged from the sun's glare, it did so without announcement. No flare marked its return. No sudden brightness demanded attention. It simply became visible again, as bodies have done for as long as there have been eyes to look upward. Telescopes reacquired it one by one, adjusting focus, recalibrating expectations. The first task was simple. Measure what is there now and compare it to what was there before. Brightness was checked against prediction. Within margins, motion was traced across the star field, smooth, continuous. Any acceleration that might have occurred during concealment would not shout. It would whisper through tiny deviations detectable only when numbers are placed carefully beside one another. This is how astronomy listens not for events, but for differences. The tail reappeared, shaped by solar influence extending away from the sun as physics suggest it should. Gas expanded gently. Dust followed predictable arcs. At first glance, nothing seemed out of place, and this too was meaningful. Nature often reassures not by surprise but by consistency, yet deeper analysis never stops at first glance. Light curves were examined with care. Small fluctuations were noted, then contextualized. Every object carries its own variability, shaped by rotation, surface texture, and uneven release of material. The question was not whether variation existed, but whether it exceeded expectation. So far it did not. Trajectory refinements followed. Orbits are living calculations updated as new measurements arrive. The path remained hyperbolic, unbound, confirming that this visitor would not stay. It had come from interstellar space, and it would return to it carrying with it whatever subtle changes the sun's passage had written into its surface. There is a quiet elegance in this. The solar system receives guests without ownership. It offers gravity, radiation, and time, then lets them go. No border marks the transition, no ceremony attends the departure. As weeks passed, the object approached its closest distance to Earth. Not close in human terms, but close enough for refined observation. This moment carried no danger, distances were vast. Yet proximity sharpens curiosity. Better angles allow better inference. Parallax improves. Error bars narrow. From Earth, instruments listened across multiple wavelengths. Optical light reflected surface properties. Infrared hinted at temperature and composition. Radio receivers remained open, attentive to the background hum where natural sources murmur endlessly. No structured signal emerged. Silence persisted, unbroken and unremarkable. Silence is often misinterpreted as absence. In astronomy, it is usually abundance. The universe is filled with processes that do not announce themselves in narrow bands or repeating patterns. Most matter communicates only through gravity and light, and even then quietly. Global coordination continued not as urgency, but as diligence. When multiple observatories work together, they do not seek confirmation of belief. They seek reduction of uncertainty. Agreement among instruments is not unanimity. It is convergence earned through patience. Public attention ebbed and flowed. This too is natural. Human focus moves quickly, drawn toward novelty, then onward. The sky remains. The data remains. Scientific inquiry does not depend on constant notice. It depends on continuity. Within the accumulated measurements, the story remained subtle. No dramatic deviation demanded revision of fundamental laws. No anomaly required extraordinary explanation. What persisted was something gentler. A reminder that rarity alone can feel profound without being disruptive. That an object can be unusual without being unnatural. This realization carries its own kind of beauty. Not the beauty of revelation, but the beauty of restraint. Science does not lose meaning when it does not find surprise. It gains maturity. It learns to value confirmation as much as discovery. As the object continued on its path, moving gradually outward again, attention softened. The solar system absorbed the event into its long memory of passages. Countless bodies have come and gone before most unseen their stories, written only in altered dust and distant trajectories. The interstellar visitor joined that lineage. It left behind no artifact, no message, no disruption. It left behind data. And data, when treated with care, becomes understanding, even when that understanding is simply this: the universe behaves consistently, even when it surprises us. There is humility in reaching such a conclusion. Not the humility of disappointment, but of alignment. We are reminded that not every rare event is a turning point. Some are simply moments of contact, brief overlaps between long journeys that neither begin nor end with us. As nights passed and measurements stabilized, the object faded gradually, its brightness diminishing with distance. Eventually it would slip beyond the reach of our instruments, becoming once again a calculation rather than a sight. Its future path would be known only through extrapolation, its present invisible to us. This is not loss, it is completion. The universe does not offer closure in the way stories do. It offers continuity. Each observation feeds into a larger tapestry of knowledge, woven slowly thread by thread. Doubt is not a flaw in this tapestry. It is one of its strongest fibres. Tonight it is all right to accept that some questions remain unanswered, not because they are hidden, but because they are not yet shaped for answers. The cosmos does not rush. It allows meaning to emerge at the pace of orbits and light. Somewhere beyond our reach, something ancient still moves, guided by forces older than language. And here beneath a quiet sky, it is enough to know that we watched carefully, listened patiently, and let the universe remain what it is. The stars keep their silence, and in that silence there is rest. Tonight the universe whispers again, but now the whisper feels complete, not because every question has been answered, but because the questions themselves have found a place to rest. This is the final stage where observation softens into acceptance, and where understanding no longer seeks to grasp, but to belong. The interstellar object continues on its path, moving steadily away from the sun, its brightness thinning into the background of stars. Its visit to our neighbourhood was brief when measured against cosmic time, yet long enough to leave an imprint on human attention. Not an imprint of fear, not of revelation, but of quiet alignment between curiosity and humility. In the end, what remains is not the object itself, but the process by which we met it. Telescopes turned, equations evolved, silence was respected. The scientific method unfolded as it always does at its best, not as a race towards certainty, but as a patient conversation with reality. Each measurement was a question asked gently. Each uncertainty was allowed to remain unforced. There is something profoundly human in this restraint. We are a species capable of imagination, yet also capable of waiting. Capable of wonder, yet disciplined enough to let wonder coexist with doubt. The cosmos does not demand belief from us. It invites attention, and attention, when sustained, becomes understanding of a quieter kind. The object did not declare itself. It did not resolve into symbol or message. It behaved according to forces we know, with variations that remind us how much we have yet to learn. This is not disappointment, it is continuity. Science does not lose meaning when it finds consistency. It gains depth. As data archives settle into permanence, future researchers will revisit this passage. They will compare it with other visitors yet to come. Patterns will slowly emerge not from single events, but from accumulation. One interstellar object is a curiosity. Many become a population. From population comes context. From context, insight. This is how knowledge grows, not in leaps, but in layers. If you're still listening, traveller, know that this story was never about a single object crossing our sky. It was about the relationship between observer and observed. about how we respond when the universe offers something unfamiliar but not threatening, about how we choose calm inquiry over urgency. You're not lost in space, you are part of it. The atoms that make up your body were shaped in stellar interiors long before this visitor began its journey. The same gravity that guided its path also holds you gently to this planet. Observation is not separation, it is connection. There is peace in recognizing this. The cosmos does not single us out, yet it includes us fully. We are participants in a system vast enough to hold mystery without anxiety. When we look outward, we are not escaping ourselves. We are remembering where we come from. Silence in this context is not absence, it is completeness. Most of the universe communicates not through signals but through persistence, through the steady repetition of laws that do not need announcement. Silence is the language of distant worlds, because distance itself requires patience. As the object fades from our instruments, it does not leave a void, it leaves continuity. The sky remains filled with stars. Planets continue their ancient paths. New data will arrive tomorrow, next year, next generation. Discovery does not end, it simply shifts its focus. There will be other visitors. Some will be smaller, some larger. Some will behave exactly as expected. Others will stretch our models just enough to keep us attentive. Each one will remind us that certainty is provisional, and that wonder thrives best in that space. Tonight the universe does not demand interpretation. It offers presence. It invites us to sit beneath the sky and recognize that not knowing everything is not a failure of understanding, but a feature of belonging to something larger than ourselves. Somewhere beyond our reach, something ancient still moves, guided by gravity, shaped by time, indifferent to being observed. And here beneath a quiet night, we rest within that same system, held by the same laws, breathing beneath the same stars. It is all right to let the questions soften now. It is all right to let the data sleep. The cosmos remembers its paths even when we stop watching. Sleep, traveler. The universe keeps its silence. As this chapter closes, remember how quietly it all unfolded, a distant object, a careful watch, a reminder that the universe does not rush its revelations. Tonight we did not chase answers. We stayed present with the questions, watching science do what it does best, observing patiently, measuring humbly, and leaving space for what is not yet known. Whatever Three-Eye Atlas truly is, it continues along its ancient path without concern for our fears or hopes, and in that motion there is something deeply comforting. The cosmos remains vast, alive, and gently indifferent, yet still willing to be studied, still willing to be seen. Traveller, it is enough to know that we are witnesses, small, yes, but never insignificant. Each observation and each quiet moment beneath the sky, joining a long human tradition of looking outward and feeling wonder awaken within. The mystery does not end here, it continues in the dark between stars, in the silence after data, in the soft realization that uncertainty and awe can exist together. If this story found you tonight, you may rest here a little longer. The universe will keep watch, and when you return there will always be more to listen for. Rest well, stay curious,